here we are. I'm back at my great-grandmother's house. We just did a chicken scratch talk time on growing up country here last week, and the water has actually receded, but look how it's cut into the pasture down here. I mean, this is bad. What a difference a few days can make. Look at that. Sun shining. This whole yard was flooded this morning. So this went back quite a ways. Quite a ways. Welcome back to Harmon Homestead, everybody. I'm down here at the duck pen. There's Okie and the girls, and then Patsy and the ducklings inside their little house. Let me show you. There's the pen, okay? Look at this pine tree. Notice anything there? So yesterday, my husband was on the couch with the dogs. Now again, that's how close it is. He was on the couch with the dogs. Thunderstorms were going on. He heard the worst thunder and then a pop. Lightning hit this pine tree. It's right there. Then it skips, and then it starts up in the top of the pine tree. Guys, this thing is massive. I mean, you can see how tall this tree is. It's huge. But it got the bottom there and then towards the top. It fried the wire all the way to the security light. We lost power. The power company come out here, put power back on, the whole 9 yards. But that's how dangerous lightning is. Look at that. There was actually bark on our back patio. Look at that. And our back patio is way up the hill. Look at that. So welcome back to Harmon Homestead, y'all. What about those videos? I mean, the lightning episode happened yesterday afternoon, and we got power back on, the whole 9 yards. Dish was knocked out, our cable. We've got to get that fixed now, but that's minor. I don't even care about cable anyways, really, to be honest. And at 7 o'clock last night, it started back again, storming all night long until 8 a.m. this morning. Now it's beautiful and sunny. So this morning is when the flooding happened, and it was pretty scary. Like, it was pretty rough. My great-grandmother's house is down the hill from us, and it's right by that creek where I just did that chicken scratch talk time on growing up country. I mean, I sat on the porch last week and videoed that, and look today, it may never be the same, parts of it. So it's hard to see that, but we are blessed. No further damage has been done. Guys, these people in Mississippi, even our own state, Georgia, they need all the prayers they can get. They had damage. We had, ours is minor. It's minor. We're blessed. We're very blessed. But you are at the mercy of the weather homesteading. You have no choice in where it's going to hit. You have no choice in what it's going to do. You just have to do the best you can. You can prepare by how you react to the weather, and you can prepare certain things in your house to prep, but you cannot help when it hits. There's nothing you can do. One of the worst things I ever lived through was Hurricane Zeta. You'll hear me talk about that a good bit. You see that huge pine behind me? We still haven't even gotten all the pine trees up. 23 pines were pushed over that night during the winds. The eye actually crossed through this county, and that was the scariest thing I've ever lived through. I've lived through that and then a tornado. And it's just, the hurricane was 10 times worse because it was sustained. It was just continuous. And that night, we had just re-roofed the house. And that night, I was laying in bed. My husband was on the road, and it was me and the dogs. The dogs were whimpering. They were shaking. And, 65-mile-an-hour winds sustained. And I just kept thinking, Lord, the roof. Naturally, I thought about this new roof. And then an hour into it, the roof was the least of my worries. Like, I really thought that was it. It was so bad. And no cell phone service, knocked out towers. It was horrible. That's when we didn't have power for 8 days afterwards. And really, after Hurricane Zeta is when I started homesteading hard and heavy, and I started prepping. And I didn't realize that until yesterday, that I've prepped. I just thought this was how a homesteader lived, but all along I've been kind of stashing things back, food, the whole 9 yards, just to have food. I'll never forget going to Walmart 2 days after the hurricane, and there was nothing on the shelves in town. The refrigeration was knocked out. They had generators on for power, and it was like there was no dairy, there was nothing. You were lucky if you could find a pack of ramen noodles. It was horrible. I think I brought home the only 2 cans of Chef Boyardee they had. I said, I will never go through this again. Because we had nothing to eat. We had no power. We had no, every grocery store in town was just, everything they had was ruined. And what was left on the shelves that was shelf stable was gone. People in town got it before we could get to it. And you can't blame them there. So, I mean, that was horrible. The second worst thing I ever lived through was a tornado. And my husband was on the road again. I say this always happens when you're not at the house. And I was sick that day. Of all things, I had the stomach virus, y'all. The stomach virus. It was a beautiful, warm spring day, just like it is now. And it was hot. The air was still. And my mom actually come down to stay with me because I was so sick. I needed help down here. And this has been several years back. That afternoon, I had fell asleep on the couch, and she said, I'm getting like weather updates on my phone. And we hadn't paid attention to the weather because I was so sick. And I should, you should always try to watch the forecast or the weather. Well, that was the least of my worries at the time, but now I'm a little bit different. So she starts getting updates, and we turned on the news to watch the local weatherman, and he's saying these things are popping up right and left, like you better watch, and they start issuing tornado watches. Well, next thing you know, within an hour, one had popped up over our county, and we were under a tornado warning. And thankfully I have a weather radar on my phone, and I could see what was happening live, because the first thing that goes is cable when the weather's bad, especially out here in the country. So we go to the basement, and me and my mom are down there, and the dogs, and you could hear it. It was right over us. It was following the county road. And everybody says it sounds like a train, and it may to you, but to me, I'm a welder's daughter. It sounded like Dave firing up the welding machine. It was just a no, 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 no. It has a certain sound, and you could hear it, and it just went right up. The basement's, the house is kind of a split level, and the basement is on the western side of the house, and it was going from west to east, southwest to northeast, and you could hear it literally lift up over the basement. The hurricane was sustained. It was just like pressure closing in, and you could feel the pressure. It was just not letting up. It was unrelenting. The tornado was like fine, boom, bad, and gone, just that quick. So after the tornado and hurricane, I started to prepare, and I did everything I could to prepare. And looking back in retrospect, I'm going to tell you what we have done to help with weather events around our homestead. Okay, if weather happens, there's only so much you can do for animals. Now, all I have are chickens and ducks. Okay, we have tarps. We make sure the pens are secure. We'll put tarps over like our silky pen where they're small, they're bantams, they can't get out of the rain that well. We'll do the best we can with them, but otherwise we just make sure everybody's locked up, secure. We'll overfeed them if we know bad weather's coming. So like cold weather, we'll feed them extra and put them to bed and hope for the best. And we try to watch the weather more. We try to know like when we can free range. If it's going to be beautiful outside, I'll free range my animals. If I know it's storming, I'm not going to let them out. I don't want them out in that, okay? There's things you can do, just subtle things. My pantry, after canning, I have stocked it up. It's well. I could live without going to the grocery store. If the deep freezers go out, we have a generator. That's the first thing. I did a video on the list of beginners homesteading supplies. Get a generator if you don't have one. If you've got a lot of food, you need to have a generator. bar none, the end. That's the number one thing I go by, because you've got all this food and it's frozen. What are you going to do if the power goes out? If it's canned, you don't have to worry about that, but if it's frozen, you do. So, and we have frozen food. My husband has deer meat. You know, I have not canned that yet. I've not gotten to that level of expertise, so we have it frozen in the freezer. Flashlights. I've always had flashlights, but I have them in a certain spot. I know where they are. They're very accessible, and a lot of that is just checking on animals at night. If I hear my rooster start crowing at 9 p.m., I know something's wrong. Me and my husband will go down to the coops. There'll be a possum, something like that down there, a raccoon, a coyote, a stray neighborhood dog, you know, there'll be something. So these animals have really helped with this preparedness, okay? Flashlights, water. We live, obviously, by the video, by a source of water. Now, if something bad happened, if everything just went away tomorrow, I couldn't drive to the store, whatever, I think it's a good idea to have bottled water, distilled water, something on hand. I think it's a great idea. But if I had to, I could go to that creek and I could have water for my hands, to whatever. You know, I'm next to a source of water. That's great. It's a double-edged sword, though, just like this morning. The damage that just flooding can do. Look into boiling water, all that. You know, if you have to do that before you can drink it. You just need to look that up, okay? I'm going to leave that there. So, water safety. You need to look into that. But we have a source of water. I would not thirst to death, okay? We have that. Food. We put back food. Anything that's non-perishable, I'll stock up on if it's on sale. And I'm not bukus with this, okay? I think you need to kind of hold it within limits, because a lot of this stuff will expire. It's just wasteful at some point. If you're using it, it's different. Just keep it rotated. When bad weather hits, the first thing that I do is I pull on my snake boots. I don't want to go down to that basement in flip-flops, okay? What if the windows bust out and there's glass everywhere? I have to crawl over boards. I have to crawl over trees. I have to crawl over whatever. Worst case scenario, I want some hard sole shoes on my feet. Something leather, something wooden, a clog, a boot. Tennis shoes are better than flip-flops. You don't want to end up with a bum foot or something, hurting yourself trying to crawl out. If you have it, a helmet. When I was a child, Mama put Dad's motorcycle helmet on my head. And if worst come to worst, put a big pan over your head, something sturdy to buffer something hitting you or falling on you. It's just things to help. First thing I do, I always grab what means something to me. I put on my wedding rings. A lot of times, like right now, I won't wear them just around the house, but I grab my wedding rings when I go to the basement. If something happens, I just want them with me. It means the world to me. I grab cash. Your house may blow away. You've got cash in your house. We always keep some cash on hand. Okay, everything's blown away. Where's your cash? You don't know. I keep it on me, because you can get out. It may just be one part of your house that's gone. You may need that cash. What if ATMs are down? That's what happened after the hurricane. There was no power in town. People couldn't get to the ATM. People couldn't use a debit card, a credit card, but they had cash money to barter with there for a certain amount of time until they could get the power back on. That's a first to have. A flashlight, we always take that with us down to the basement. Blankets, if I have time, I'll throw those on my shoulders and we'll go down with blankets. You don't want to be cold and wet if you're exposed to the elements. Something just to keep you warm. And that's pretty much it. And you go down there. Weather radio. I do not have a solar weather radio, but that's going to be my next purchase. I have an electric weather radio that'll charge and then it'll have battery, but I like the solar idea. So the weather radio, that way you'll know what's coming. And I have the weather app on my cell phone, the radar, so I can see exactly where it is. Things have come so far as technology. We can watch the meteorologist in the basement on a cell phone talk to us and tell us, like, shelter now. That's a blessing. That is a blessing, y'all. It's just simple stuff. Like I said, you can take it even further. You can have your animal gloves. I always wear like goat skin gloves, leather gloves to do my animals. Throw those on your hands, go down there. You don't know what you're going to have to crawl through. You don't know what you're going to have to pull through. You want your hands not cut up. If you have a pocket knife, you may want to take that with you in case you have to cut through something. Now, don't cut through a wire or a cord. Watch where you step. There again, that goes back to the boots. You just never know what you need. And if you know bad weather's coming, go get a gallon of gas. If you've got something like a chainsaw, where we live, obviously you can tell my husband's had to chainsaw trees over the driveway. Every man on this road has. Go get gas. Go get that and bring it back. Just to have in case you have to break out that chainsaw. If not, then put it in your lawnmower. So, you can use it for other things. It doesn't have to be just wasted. You can use it. There's so many things to think about. I'm just hitting the highlights if I have to grab and go. Because we have these pop-up tornadoes. We'll know that there's severe thunderstorms, but then one might just pop up and you just have to go. When I was in college, we had to take like an emergency disaster management class, and we did a tote, like what I used for my brooder boxes, a plastic Rubbermaid tote, and they said, make this and prep it 3 days with no power, food, water, nothing. And so I got bottled water. I got jugs of distilled water I put in there. I put canned food in there, a can opener, unless you had a pocket knife that you could cut through. A manual can opener, y'all. If anything, keep a manual can opener at your house. I learned that during the hurricane. And after I'd been through it, your mind's not in the right space. You're upset, you're scared, you're panicked, your whole life's flipped upside down. Right now, if you don't have one, go out and get a handheld can opener, unless you can open up a can with a pocket knife and you're good like that. I'm not good like that. My husband can, I can't. So, I guess if I was starving, I could, but that's dangerous. You don't want to cut yourself. Just go get the can opener, okay? I'm just saying. But anyways, we had to put that in there. Blankets, a change of clothes, a raincoat. Keep yourself dry. A coat if it's cold, a change of clothes, flashlights, batteries for the flashlights, those will run out, things like that. And then just keep it with a lid on it in your closet. And if something bad happens, grab it and go to the basement. Grab it and go to your friend's house. Grab it and go to your nearest shelter. Grab it and go somewhere. That's a beautiful idea, is to keep that tote. And have it just an emergency tote at all times, or have like a grab bag. Have all of that in your bag and go. The tote will just hold more stuff like water. So it's going to be heavy, but you can do it. In the wintertime, in my car, I'll put blankets in there. I'll leave jackets in there. I'll leave blankets just nice and neat in the back in case I get a flat and something happens and I just can't get it changed. I can't, whatever. Or if I get in a car wreck and I can't get off the side of the road. That's something to think about. People up north probably think about that all the time, where us southerners don't. We don't prepare for stuff like that. But it does happen. There's so much to think about, y'all. Think about preparedness. Again, on a homestead, it's the same preparedness. You just have to worry about those animals too. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. You do the best you can to shelter them. We always check on them after a bad weather event. If something's wrong, I've never had a pen destroyed from weather. If it was, we would try to patch it up as best as we could when the weather cleared until like the next day when we could get it fixed. Just always go check and recheck on your animals. Check and recheck on your meat. Here's a prime example if you have a deep freezer. Yesterday, the power went out, okay, after the lightning strike. We have the shop that has power completely down the hill detached from the house. I asked my husband, I said, did you check on we've got chicks out in the shop, the Tractor Supply chicks. I said, did you check on those? They're 4 weeks old, but they still need heat. And they were okay without heat. They're pretty big, and it was 80 degrees. They were fine, but I still wanted that lamp on, okay? And I said, you go check on them? No, not yet, but I will. Okay. He goes down there, and lamp's not on. He said, it's blown the bulb probably. Okay, let me swap it out. And he said, no. Oh, well, first thing I said was, is the deep freezer on? No. We flipped the breaker, it was fine. But See, you got to think about this stuff. Check, recheck. If you have deep freezers, check, recheck. Make sure they came back on. Make sure you don't need to go flip a breaker. If you live in an old-fashioned house like that and still have stuff like that, you know, you have to check and recheck. You have to check on everything on your property. Are trees down? Is it obstructing something? Has it hurt something? How's my property look? Let's go look all the way around the property. It's just simple stuff like that. Now, thankfully, we didn't have anything planted, but I can tell you one thing. The very first year that we planted a garden, we had to redo it because this flood happened again. And I had cucumber plants like towards my great-grandmother's halfway down the hill. They were later that summer, the seed literally washed out of the raised bed. So check and recheck and just plan to go again. That's all you can do. That is all you can do. Secure things around your house. If you have lawn chairs, stuff like that, if you know the wind's gonna get up, bad stuff like that, that's anywhere. That's not homesteading. Just secure it, pull it. If anything, put it towards the house where it's got a kind of a barrier, a buffer. Trash cans, anything. Y'all, we could talk about this for hours. I am not the preparedness expert. Y'all know much more than me, I'm sure. But these are just some tips that I've learned. And you know what? Usually after every terrible storm, it'll be sunshine the next morning. And there's always something to be thankful for. Our prayers go out to those that have really had losses. Okay, we just had some aggravating kinks, you know, with the tree and the cable or whatever. That's nothing. I'll take it any day. Our prayers go out to these people affected by these storms. Help these people. Do all you can. Volunteer. Do everything you can, guys. Be weather prepared and just hang in there, okay? We'll see you next time on Harmon Homestead.